Okay, when you're in your drive space, you should be able to access the second TED Talks analysis that you completed on Friday. It's been graded over the weekend, and you should have full feedback, including the rubric and all sorts of comments. So take a moment to make sure that that is up on your desktop and look through the comments. Today we'll be discussing that feedback and making sure that you understand exactly what's going on with the comments that I've made and how to repair any problems that you may have experienced. So take a moment to look through your own, because remember, you'll be able to generate questions and ask me. Okay, let's generate some focus for what we're doing today. Tomorrow, you will be completing your third and final TED Talk analysis, and that will be in a test environment, which means that you'll be watching a video that you've not seen yet, that nobody has discussed in this or any of the 8th grade classes this quarter. You'll be watching that. You'll be analyzing it on the same sort of worksheet, answering the same sorts of questions. And the video, I believe the video that I have decided on is about 8 minutes in length, which means you have 45 minutes or so to pop it up, watch it, rewatch it, take a look at the transcript, answer questions, and finalize your TED Talks analysis. During class tomorrow, you will only be able to look at one document besides the document that you're typing into, and that will be any notes that you take today. And in order to make sure that you have a document which has notes that I approve of, because this is going to be a test environment, I want you to create that document right now. You will call that document TED Talks Notes. TED Talks Notes. And please share it with me at my bex.net address. You should know that one. TED Talks Notes. Thank you, Allie. Good. All right. Allie, Matthew, Jessica, Colby, Harold, Drew, B, Alaya, Joey, Jenna, Lauren, Trevor, Michael, Aaron, Kylie, excellent. Micah, Tyler, Sammy. Okay, good. So keep working on it. If you've not shared it with me yet, remember the bex.net address, not the sylvaniaschools.org address. Please make sure that you're sharing it to the correct email address. So this document will be open on your desktop tomorrow, as well as the TED Talks analysis sheet number 3 that I will send you. It's not in your Share With Me folder yet, but you will have that, and you will have your TED Talks notes, and then you'll have a tab open with the actual video that you can watch, and you can pull the transcript as well as you'd like. So it's a bit like having notes that I can check at any time, but I don't suspect that you're going to have any problems with it. Mostly I just want you to focus your notes today, and I would love for somebody to volunteer theirs who is okay with typing and would like to have their notes up on the screen. Don't all volunteer at once. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate that. Okay, so Lauren will volunteer to have her notes up. So if you're unsure what to type during today's discussion, then I'm going to bounce back and forth between TED Talks analyses and Lauren's notes. And you can follow her. Of course, slow me down if there's any problem with what we're doing. You had a moment to take a look at TED Talks analysis number 2. I have given many comments. Sometimes my comments, while clear to me, may not be clear to you. So now is the opportunity to ask me questions. And you know how I go once you ask me a question. So who'd like to start? A question about some feedback that you got. You lost a point. You made some sort of mistake. You don't understand why. And further, you don't understand how to fix it for tomorrow. Start me off, Jacob. Yes. Okay. That's excellent. So let's start with vocal delivery. Lauren, if you wouldn't mind typing vocal delivery up there. Let's talk about what I'm looking for vocal delivery. So Jacob's question is about a word that he used to describe the vocal delivery. You called it weird, right? Yeah. And my comment was that weird wasn't a very clear term to describe the vocal delivery. Correct? Okay, so let's think about what words we can use to describe voice. So Lauren, on these notes, and everybody else, what I'd like you to have on these notes right now are some words that could be used to describe voice. Can somebody give me a word that describes somebody's voice? Loud. Okay, good. Volume, right? Loud. And what's the antonym of loud then, Matthew? Very good. So loud and soft. What else? Calden. I'm sorry? Raspy. I like that one. That's good. R-A-S-P-Y. Raspy. What else? That's it. Loud, soft, and raspy. Yes, Harold. Crackly. Crackly. That would definitely be an adjective that I would use to describe maybe the sound coming out of a speaker. So let's see. Harold, are you describing a voice that seems to crack in some way? I know, but we're just talking hypothetically here. All right, so let's talk about a voice being tentative. Okay, there's one word for you, T-E-N-T-A-T-I-V-E. And that means that they seem a little bit shy, that they're almost halting in their voice. Let's talk about somebody stumbling or stuttering. That means they falter on certain words. Let's talk about a voice being halting. Halting means that they pause every once in a while to collect their thoughts. They're not quite sure what they're saying, so there are a lot of gaps and pauses. Any other words? How about strong? Deep? You know, there are psychological studies that show that the more bass you have in your voice, the more likely people are to listen to you. And the higher pitched your voice, the less likely they are to listen to you. And studies show that politicians that have deeper voices are generally more successful in elections than those that have higher pitched voices. So it might be interesting to talk about the depth of a voice, a deep voice, a powerful voice. On the other hand, you could talk about a voice being high-pitched. Jacob, let's go back to you in your original question. You talked about the voice being weird. Can you describe that for me a little bit?
Oh, I said he speaks loud and clear because like I thought he had I thought that he was like loud enough that everyone in the audience could hear, and then he spoke clear, so like he could understand what he was saying.
Okay, so you thought he was loud, clear, and powerful in his voice? Where do we get weird out of that? That's what I guess I'm confused about a little bit. You said that your original description was weird?
No, I don't have weird anywhere.
That's what we've been talking about for a while. That's what I've said a few times over, and you said, yes, you wrote weird. Maybe you didn't hear me properly, Jacob. Which word did you use originally to describe? Loud and clear. Okay, so you used loud and clear to describe that voice originally. I initially thought that you said weird. Okay, so let's talk about the word that I flagged was clear then, not weird.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So clear. So what does clear mean? We might talk about a voice being powerful. We might talk about a voice being fluid. That's another good one. Fluid is the opposite of halting. This is a voice that comes through without making any stops or stuttering. So Jacob, if you wanted to specify what you meant by clear, you might talk about somebody that does not falter, does not halt, does not stop or stumble. Somebody that speaks fluidly. Somebody that does not seem to need to stop their voice to collect their thoughts. Does that seem okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. Let's continue on. Jacob's was the first question. What's the next one? Lauren.
Organization.
Yes.
Instead of giving a word about the organization,
Uh-huh.
I explained what we did.
Okay.
And you had questions like, is it process or exemplification?
Good. So let's talk about some terms. So give me another heading, organization. And under organization, I'd like you to start a bulleted list. Lauren's question is excellent and a question that addresses many people's analyses. So make sure that you're paying attention to this. When I ask for organization, I'm asking how the information is organized according to topics and subtopics like paragraphs and so on. What's the first piece of information? What's the second piece of information? How do those two relate? As you journey through high school, you will find English teachers asking you to write essays according to different organizations. I'm talking about the same sorts of things they will talk about. Let's give one example. First bullet, narrative. And in parentheses or in a dash, you could say story. A narrative's a story. The speaker is telling a story with beginning, middle, and end, with plot events that roll out one leading to the next. You know what stories are about. And you know that many of your TED Talk speakers gave stories. Okay, next bullet. Compare and contrast. Not necessarily a story. This is where somebody takes a subject, one thing that they're talking about, and compares it or contrasts it with another thing, or multiples, actually. So, for instance, many of you looked at that gentleman, I can't remember, I believe his name was Sergey somebody, who talked about Google Glass. You talked about that? So I think part of his structure, and I didn't watch the video, but part of his structure, I think, was a contrast between cell phones and Google Glass. Was he doing that sometimes? Then part of his structure might have been a contrast structure. Does that make sense? Okay, so you would use a term like contrast. Third one, how about cause and effect? Again, the term itself should be pretty clear. Let's talk about, for instance, an event in history and all the different effects that roll out of it. Or, how many of you watched, and I can't remember if we watched in this class, we might have watched in this class, the YouTube going viral? Right? Did we watch that in this class a little bit? That was a cause and effect structure because he was talking about the 3 different causes that led to a YouTube video going viral. That's cause and effect. How does this one thing happen? Well, there are 3 different causes. And he enumerated them, one after the other. That's cause and effect. The next one could be process. Process is a how-to. So how many of you were looking at the video where that guy was talking about how to make a keyboard out of a banana? Some of you were doing that? I haven't watched that one either, but from your description, it sounded very much like he might have been dipping into process, telling you how to do things. That's a how-to. Here's a big word, but it should make sense. Exemplification. E-X-E-M-P-L-I-F-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. Exemplification looks like a big word, but it shouldn't be all that big because it's just the word example, which means example after example after example after example. Harbison's talk about I listen to color was exemplification primarily because he's talking about all the different examples of how he uses this device. Next, somewhat similar to cause and effect, let's talk about problem solution. Somebody gives a problem and talks about the different steps to overcome that problem and to solve it. The Google driverless car video that I know somebody in second period was looking at was an effort to solve the problem of road deaths. Now, could we talk about driverless cars in a lot of different ways? Sure, but that speaker decided to make it a problem solution speech by leading with the problem, deaths on the road, and then talking about Google's driverless car. Many of you are describing organizations in your TED Talk analysis, and you're doing okay. You're kind of getting to the point, but I think you're lacking the point because you lack the language with which to discuss what you want to talk about. Here are the terms, and now you have them in your notes. They're listed in the instructions on the TED Talk analysis sheets, some of them at least, and hopefully that adds some clarity. Lauren, does that help you a little bit? One note, and you might even make this note in there, Lauren. Speakers can mix organizations. You don't have to be totally narrative. In fact, many people start with a story, start with narrative, and then go into something else. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did miss one. It's what happens when I do it totally from memory. One more organization we're gonna put up there is categorization. So it's like category, except drop the Y and add ization at the end. Categorization. And you can change that S to a Z since we're not British. There you go. Categorization is just giving different categories. For instance, the talk that some of us were looking at, I think, Colby, it was yours, 5 dangerous things you should let kids do. That was a categorization structure because he said, here's category number 1, let's give some examples. Here's category number 2, let's give some examples. Here's category number 3. And as I said, English teachers in high school, all the way up through senior year, and some composition teachers at the beginning of your college career will ask you to write essays according to what we call an organizational mode. They'll say, here, write a problem solution paper. And they'll give you a format. They're like, here's how you state the problem, here's how you state the solution, and so on and so forth. You are watching sophisticated adult speakers, good writers, good thinkers, good speakers, using these modes. Further questions on organization? And Lauren, that helps you? Next question. More comments? Yes, Andrew. Very good. Andrew's problem is one faced by many of you. He's talking about appeals to emotion or emotional appeals. I can't remember exactly how did I say emotional appeals or appeals to emotion? Emotional appeals. Okay. So let's look at emotional appeals. This is our third. Most importantly, you must state an emotion. You must use an emotion word. So let's, like we did with vocal delivery, let's talk about some emotion words that might be pretty common in something like this. Thinking about the talks that you've watched, both watching other students' talks and the 2 that you did for your analysis, can anybody give me some emotion words? What did your speakers try to elicit from an audience? What kind of emotions? Lauren? Okay, humor. Humor is not necessarily a strong emotional word, so let's think about what causes humor. How about people laugh for what reason? People laugh because they're surprised. So let's write surprise and shock. People laugh because they are pleased or delighted. People sometimes laugh because they are proud. When somebody accomplishes something, sometimes it results in laughter and like, yay, people laugh and cheer. So those 3 emotional words can lead to humor and then can specify what kind of humor you're talking about. Why do people laugh? So I would go that step further to ask why people laugh. Andrew, which speaker were you talking about this time? Jay Silver. And what was he talking about? Oh, hack a banana, make a keyboard. So people were laughing? And why were people laughing? Okay. That kind of begs the question, right? People were laughing because he was being funny. So can you give me an example, if you recall one, of a joke that he made or something that he did that made people laugh? Put a fork on a drill, what, to twirl spaghetti? That's brilliant. I'm not sure how that would fit on the table side next to your plate very well, but okay. Shock and surprise, I think, would work. So he wants to shock and surprise his audience. Do you think that's accurate, Andrew, that he's shocking and surprising his audience? That's an emotion that he wants to instill in them. By using a banana to make a keyboard and using a power drill to make a fork that twirls spaghetti, sounds to me like he's just trying to be absurd. And that means that he's shocking and surprising his audience. It's part of his speech strategy. He knows what he's doing. He's not just being a buffoon. He intentionally wants to do that. All right, so let's talk about some other emotions. What other emotions might these speakers try to stimulate in their audiences? Nothing? All we're doing is making them laugh? I know a lot of them are making people laugh. Lauren?
I'm not sure if some of the speakers try to do this, but if you listen to their arguments and you don't agree with them,
Uh-huh.
like,
Oh, so frustration? Okay, so let's list some of the negative emotions. How about frustration? Frustration can be a powerful emotion that speakers do want to bring out in their audience. Frustration, anger. Anger is also powerful. Fear. Fear is powerful. Hope. Hope is powerful as well. You basically can talk about, I guess, if you really wanted to break it down into two different areas, positive and negative emotions. But either side is powerful, and they can mix the two. So once again, like organizations, speakers can mix emotions. And I would like you to think about the various emotions that your speaker is trying to make the audience feel. I think that, let's see, did we watch any of Rita Pearson in this class? The Every Student Deserves a Champion. Did you do that? I think there's an emotion of hope that's given there. There's also shock and surprise at some of her methods. Must have been second and third period where we watched that one. Andrew, does that help? Okay. So just keep in mind, make sure that you are showing some sort of strong emotion word in whatever you're discussing. That's 3 questions down. Next. Look at TED Talks analysis number 2. If there's a comment on there, you don't know how to fix it right now, then ask the question. Remember, this goes into your notes for tomorrow. Yes, Joey.
What you said, like, all you said was repeat the comments, but all my answers were correctly done. Expand on more.
Sure. Let's put this into your notes too. We're going to call this a general rule. Expand on answers. General rule is to expand on answers. You have the time, and I fear that those students that really aren't doing this properly tomorrow will probably finish in about 20 to 25 minutes. Those students who know what they're doing will be working the entire class period, and Joey, here's why. Because you want to expand on everything as much as you can. Add to this general rule. Imagine your reader has not viewed the video. Guess what? I haven't viewed most of your videos, which I like as a grader because then I don't take anything for granted. And then Lauren and everybody else, we're going to give a couple examples of this. So we have a general rule. Expand on your answers. Imagine your reader hasn't viewed your video. Here's some examples. Example number 1, appearance. If you write dress casually, you're not done. If you write dress casually, you are not done. I do not know what that means until you describe the person's clothing for me. So what does it mean for this particular person? Well, dress casually means that he's wearing a polo shirt with a kind of informal blazer or suit jacket and jeans. All right, now I know what you're talking about. What kind of shoes is he wearing? Sneakers. Good. Done. But if you stop with dress casual, you're not giving me enough. So that's one example. Example number 2. Evidence. I think one student listed each piece of evidence by bullets. And I was so happy to see that one. That one popped up, and I started looking at that, and I thought, yes, the student's got it. So in evidence, list each piece of evidence individually and specifically. Don't say, like the hack a banana one, don't say in evidence, oh, he gave me examples of weird technology. That's not detail. Detail is example number 1, a power drill used as a fork to twirl spaghetti. Example number 2, banana used to make a keyboard. Example number 3, Andrew. Example number 3, what else did he do? Making music with ketchup. Okay, I'm not even sure I want to go there, but okay, fine. Making music with ketchup. That's what I mean by expanding. Let's go back to the speaking section. So, oh, okay. Body language moves around a lot. I saw this often. Moves around a lot. What does that mean? Does that mean the person is just like crazy all over the place, kind of jittering, convulsing? Well, that's moving around a lot. How about pacing smoothly back and forth? That's moving around a lot, but the two are not the same. You cannot simply say moves around a lot. So describe it for me. Could you say the person smoothly paces back and forth from one end of the stage to the next? Okay. Could you say the person stays pretty much to the center of the stage, however, turns to face all parts of the audience? Okay. So Matthew was watching Rita Pearson's talk. I don't think she moved all that much. She probably had a few square feet of space that she was moving in, but she was constantly turning because her audience actually was all, for the most part, around her, right? They were like behind her a little bit, and yeah. Describe, add detail. That's what I mean when I say expand. Joey, do you see a place where you could have done that?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me an example of something that you could have expanded on.
My organization, you said describing detail.
Okay, so what did you list for your organization at first?
The organizational strategy is process using robot as a process.
Okay, using robot as a process. Was this the robot cell phone thing? Okay. So talk to me a little bit about what you mean by process. And by process, I assume you mean the person figures out how to load the app on their cell phone and how to operate the app to make the robot move. Okay, so just that added detail helps me understand what you're talking about. Is that clear? Okay. So keep in your mind, folks, and by the way, this is a struggle that you and English teachers will have for years, is to always add more detail to make yourself clearer. So continue to try to push yourself there. Question number 4 done. What's number 5? Andrew. Oh, good. Effectiveness of reasoning. This is an important one. So effectiveness of reasoning. And yeah, Andrew, you're definitely not the only one that struggled with this. I'm going to try to break this down as simply as I can, and probably showing examples will help. But as simply as I can, I'll say it this way. Does the speaker's conclusion seem justified by their evidence? I'm sorry, let me change that. Does the speaker's claim seem justified by their evidence? So let's ask that question. Does the speaker's claim seem justified by their evidence? Now, let's take that question and apply it to Harbison. I listen to color. Can somebody remind me what his claim was? Harbison, I listen to color. Everyone should be a cyborg. That's his claim. Now let's ask ourselves the question, is that claim justified by the evidence that he provides? Somebody want to tell me yes or no on that? Lauren? There you go. Lauren says no because he only gives his personal experience. So she would write, Harbison's reasoning is not very effective because he has argued that everybody should be a cyborg but has only provided evidence from himself. That's what I mean by effectiveness of reasoning. Andrew, what was the claim for Pack a Banana? Okay, so everybody should look at the world as a way to apply modern technology in some way, to change the world through modern tech. And you know what evidence he provided, right? He provided basically examples. Was it an exemplification kind of thing where he's providing examples of this? Do you think his examples gave enough evidence that his claim seems true, that people should do this? Okay. Then that's what you want to discuss in your effectiveness of reasoning. You should say, what's the guy's name again? Silver. You would write something like this. Silver's claim is justified because he provides plenty of examples showing how successful anybody can be at doing it. And he provides enough examples to show the benefit from doing it. So Andrew Epp said he provides plenty of examples to show how anybody can do it and how we can all benefit from it. And therefore his claim is justified. Whereas maybe Harbison only has the one example, this guy gives more examples, so his reasoning is more effective. Does that make sense? Somebody else, provide me with an example so we can work with effectiveness of reasoning. A different video. Calden, which one was yours? Oh, Embrace the Shake. Yeah, I want to watch this one. Sounded pretty interesting. Can you tell me what this man's claim was? What was he trying to prove or convince his audience of?
To be limitless, you must first become limited.
Ooh. To become limitless, you must first become limited. So let me see if I can translate that, and you tell me if I'm translating it correctly. In order to be anything you want to be, you've got to first realize who you actually are and what limits you have.
More like if you have all the art supplies in the world, you won't know what to do. But if you have less, you can make basically anything.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting. So if you deprive somebody, it creates more options for them. What evidence does he provide for that? I'm sorry? Of what? Story of what?
How he got a shake in his hand and mixed him up and make it with other stuff that are just, I don't know.
Do you remember what caused the shake? Was it some kind of cerebral palsy or? Okay. So he has some sort of neurological challenge that is causing a shake, and he uses that shake actually to add to his artistic expression. Is that what's going on? Does he provide any other examples besides his own? That he might be suffering from the same problem that Harbison's suffering from, giving ineffective or insufficient, I should say, evidence. He doesn't give enough evidence. He only gives his own example. Okay. So effectiveness of reasoning. Ask yourself that question. Does the evidence provided justify the claim? If the answer is yes, then great, explain how. If the answer is no, okay, fine, explain how. And then you can add to that anything else you want to. So if you say, yeah, Silver's talk is great, and I love his examples, and he provides plenty of them, but he forgot to talk about money and how this costs something. The robot, cell phone robot, Joey, that was your cell phone robot. Did he say basically that everybody should have a robot? All right. How much do they cost? 150 bucks. So isn't he assuming that everybody's got 150 bucks to drop on something totally unnecessary? And does that seem to be a flaw in his reasoning? Yeah, it seems to me to be a flaw in the reasoning. So if you pick out any flaws, and Lauren, you can add this too. In this section, identify any flaws in reasoning, such as facts that he or she ignored. I'm sorry? Sure. Identify any flaws in reasoning, such as facts that he or she ignored. Matthew, do you remember how Pearson's talking about how every teacher should have personal relationships with students, right? And the way to maximize education is to have that kind of personal relationship. What are some counter arguments that other teachers might give against her? She actually mentioned some of them.
One teacher said that she thinks that all she has to do is just come in and teach them and they should learn and that should be the end of it.
She even says, like, they don't pay me to like my students, they pay me to teach my students. Pearson addresses that counter argument by saying, you know what, sometimes you're just not going to like the student. It happens. It's going to happen. You have that personality conflict. So she addresses her counter argument. That makes her reasoning stronger. So in your discussion, you might even say she addresses counter arguments of teachers that disagree with her. That strengthens reasoning always. Right. A nice series of questions, about 5 of them. You focused on some of the criticisms that I felt most important, affected the expansion of detail and organization are some of the more important of these issues. You have your feedback. If you wish to take your feedback and add to this notes document that you just made, you are welcome to do so. But remember, this is the only document that you may have open with you tomorrow when you take this test. Any final questions? Cool. Then log them off. Close down.